Project 39 mini albums, and this is the second part of the tutorial on how I made this mini album using the collection from Echo Park called A Birthday Wish Girl. In this video, I'm going to show you how to add all of the elements to the pages. The previous video showed you how to make the cover, the hinge, and the base pages. So let us get started. Okay, now we're going to get started on decorating. We're going to start with the inside front cover. But first, a note on my labeling. IFC is inside front cover, and this is 1F for one front, 1B, 2F, 2B, etc. So that's how I do my page labeling names. So the pieces that we're going to need to start with are a 4 1/4 by 7 1/4, 2 by 4 1/4, 4 3/4 by 6 1/4, and 6 1/4 by 8 1/2. So I will grab my scoreboard and we'll score these pieces and then add them to our page. Now I am using the Birthday Wish Girl collection from Echo Park. You can use whatever collection you want. This is a great collection for a baby's first birthday. It's also great for cards, for girl cards. But any collection that's got some 4x6, 3x4 kind of parts will really work. Alright, so I am going to put the 8 1/2 side at the top and score at 4 1/4. The one that's 4 3/4 by 6 1/4, I'm going to score at 4 1/4. The one that's 2 by 4 1/4, I'm going to put the 2-inch side at the top, and I just need 1/2 inch, so I'm scoring like that. And then the one that is 4 1/4 by 7 1/4, we're going to score at 6 1/4. So that's it for the scoring. Now I'm going to grab my liquid adhesive, and my choice is the one that's not so scruffy. The Designer Dries Clear Adhesive from the Art Glitter Company. You can find it at Country Craft Creations. And it probably is shipping about now. It can only ship when the weather warms up because it does not like cold temperatures. Alright, let's start with the 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. I'm going to fold and burnish on the score line. And I am going to add glue sort of to the inside of this flap. And that is going to go on the left side of our other piece, the 6 1/4 by 8 1/2. So I'm going to just put it right up there on the fold. Burnish real good. And then I'm going to fold this okay. Then I'm taking the 2 by 4 1/4 piece, and I'm going to put this on the bottom of this piece, but I want to make sure that it's not right up against the bottom. I want it to be out about a 32nd of an inch, just because I want those flaps to open and close freely. So I'm putting that down on the 1/4 inch or that 1/2 inch piece, lining this up, and I'm going to pull it out just a little bit. Just to make sure that that will still open and close. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece that is 6 3/8 by 8 3/8. I love this paper, but we're using this side. I wanted something that's got a slight pattern to it. So in my baby book, in this one, again, it's a book for a 1-year-old birthday. So I thought the first page should be when the baby's born, a photo of the parents, baby pictures, and then if you have pictures of footprints or anything like that, then this is a good spot to put those pictures. Maybe I don't know, when my kids were born, we used to get a card from the hospital on the height and weight, but I've noticed that the parents do their own photographs now with something that's got the height and the weight. So it is not totally necessary. All right, and then I'm going to So what I'm going to do is this 4 1/4 by 7 1/4. I'm going to center this on the page. So I'm going to go down about 5/8 from the top and about 1 inch from the sides, approximately. Now this has a pattern on it. The pattern, of course, is not perfectly straight side to side, but it is top in the top area. So I can sort of use that as an eyeball. Like this has the X's. On the very top of the X is where I'm going to put this paper. It's nice when there's a pattern, as long as you put everything on straight. So the way we're going to adhere this is just add adhesive to this 1 inch piece. And the reason I'm doing this with a little bit of the pattern paper showing is it gives room for some more decoration. So that's on. Make sure it looks straight, which it does. And then I'll fold this up. I should have burnished it before, but no harm, no foul. So that'll come up. And then this little flap will go on the bottom. That's where we're going to put our magnet, just to keep it all closed. So now I'm going to add adhesive to this bottom piece. Now, if you wanted to, you could just glue the top, the right side, and the bottom, and use that as a little tuck spot. Do we want to do that? You know what? I think I will. I think I will glue it. So I'm going to just add glue on the top. I'm going to add it up into the flap, just because it's probably going to stop there anyhow. And I'm going to add it to the flap here on the bottom. And then I'm going to put it down on here. Make sure this will still open. So it needs to be a smidgen away from there. And there we go. So now I'll add a magnet to this. And what I'm going to put here is this happy birthday I'll probably back it on white paper just because I want this to be a real focal point. I chose this saying happy birthday instead of happy birthday, just because this is the birthday. So, so I will decorate this and show you what I've got. All right, so now the page is done and we'll show you what we've got. So I've got the 4x6 cut apart that I did back on a piece of white cardstock just to bring the focus in. I had to cut down the 4x6 actually, just a smidge. And then there is a magnet on here. Now I put these white pieces of cardstock here so you could figure out that's where a photo goes, but I am going to take those out because I have photographs to go there. So there will be a photograph here, and then I don't have anything here, but there's a magnet under it, and then this will open to the side, and that'll open to the side. So there's room right there for 4 photos. You could put a photo here and one here, but I do like having a little bit of space so you can see some of the pattern paper. And then here, this is room to put a photo or journaling, or if this is going to be for baby's first birthday and this is newborn pictures, this will be a great place to put the size and weight and time of the baby. Now I did decide to put the opening on this side. You could put it on this side as well, or you could have it go both ways. You know, you could have it open on these sides, just glue this piece on the other side, top and bottom. So whatever you would like to do for that. So that is the inside cover. Next we'll work on the front of page 1. Okay, for the front of page 1 you'll need 4 pieces of cardstock. One that is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. One that is 2 3/4 by 4 1/8. One that is 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. And one that's 6 1/2 by 8. We're going to use the 6 1/2 by 8 and make a large flap. So we'll just score that at 1/2 inch. And then the 4 3/4 by 6 1/4, again, we'll put the 4 3/4 inch side at the top and score at 1/2 inch. And I'm sorry, with the 6 1/2 by 8, you'll put the 6 1/2 side at the top and score at 1/2 inch. So we're going to adhere this flap onto the page, onto the left side of the page, and I will go ahead and grab scissors, just miter the corners here just a little bit, and grab the book. And add some glue to that tab, line it up to the side. So we're going to put it on the page, not on the hinge. And I'll burnish that. Oh, and this 2 3/4 by 4 1/8, we're going to score that at 1/2 inch too. And I already put a magnet on that. I'm going to just put the adhesive on the inside and just center that on the page and adhere that down. And then I'm going to put my pattern paper down. So in this case I'm using 2 different pattern papers, and the reason I'm using 2 different pattern papers is because I want the colors from here to sort of flow into there. And let me give you measurements for these papers. So this is 1 5/16 by 7 7/8. And this one is 4 7/16 by 7 7/8. So I've got this. All right, so I've got this 4 3/4 by 6 1/4. It has that flap. I'm going to add some adhesive on the inside flap. Add my 4 1/4 by 6 and put that down. And then I'm just going to glue this down onto here to just add glue to 3 sides. So I'm going to add it when it's placed down. It's going to be added to the right side, the top and bottom, and center that on the page. You can get a ruler, but I usually just eyeball it, and especially when there's a pattern, it's easy to eyeball. And then I'll add another piece of another magnet up here, and then this will be open so we can add another photo mat inside. So I'll do that and decorate it and show you what I got. Okay, I'm going to show you the rest of the front of page 1. So here's the flap we added. And then the next page is just really a simple page. I wanted the photos to take center stage. This one is a 6 1/2 by 4 1/2 white photo mat, and then I put a 6 1/4 by 4 1/4 pink photo mat on top of there. So when you put the 4 by 6 photo, you're going to have a little pink and then white border just to place some importance on that picture. And then this one, I did have that pink pattern paper. I have a stripe of just plain white cardstock, and then the same paper here. And then that's a 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 photo. Is that right? That's actually 4 by 6. That's to take the place of a photo, but you could put a 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 piece of cardstock, which I think I will. I'll switch that. And then I also fussy cut around part of the train. I'm going to have some of the train going on some of the pages. This was a cut apart on one of the 12 by 12 pages, and I just chose this one for the beginning and the colors matched, and this one so we had some duplication of the patterns, and so we just sort of went and just add something else on the page. So that was just simple. It just was a matter of putting the cardstock. So now we are going to do the back of page 1, and I'll show you what we're going to do for that. All right, so for the back of page 1, we have a piece of cardstock that is 6 by 7 3/4. I'll put the 6-inch side at the top and score at 1/2 inch. And that's it for that. I'm going to go ahead and fold and burnish on the score line. And then I'll go ahead and adhere that to the left side of the page. Since it's 7 3/4, you've got a little room top and bottom. I'm going to just put it about 1/8 inch from the top and the bottom. And we're going to be adding some 2 different colors. I'm going to have the white with the stars over there and the orange with the stars on the right side. But I'm going to add a magnet first before I put that down. So here's the back of page 1 all completed. So I have a 4 by 6 cut apart on a piece of white cardstock that is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. I have a piece of paper below it that is 4 1/4 by 1 1/4. And then this piece is just under 1. It's about 13/16 wide and 7 7/8 tall. And this is also a good spot to put a photo. And then we open it and it's pretty simple. I still need to add a couple of decorations, but the white cardstock here is 6.5 by 4.5. The orange is 6 1/4 by 4 1/4. And on here it is the same. And then just a couple of pieces of paper. Now you can put a full sheet of paper underneath it if you want, but don't forget there are magnets to keep that all together. So that is the back of page 1 all completed. Now we'll move on to the front of page 2. All right, I'm going to give you all the measurements for the front of page 2, 2F. So you'll need a piece of cardstock 4 1/4 by 4 3/4 and 5 1/4 by 7 1/4. You'll also need to cover this page, so just grab a piece of decorative paper for the page. Don't glue it down yet. For the front of this, I'm using a 4 by 4 cut apart. And for this piece, I just simply cut down 2 pieces of decorative paper, 1/8 of an inch smaller than that. And we'll just adhere those together. But first, what we need to do with this is grab our scoreboard. And we're going to just score this with the 4 3/4 inch side at the top. We'll score it 1/2 inch. So this is actually, I put a magnet on the back of it to save some time. This is going to go on the page on the right hand side, and we're going to put it up near the top. So I'm going to go down about 1 inch from the top and put it right against the edge of the page. And then I'll add my magnet, and then I'll put my paper down. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then put the decorative paper on the back of this mat. Okay, I'm going to take off the magnet from here, and I am adding a strip of paper about 3/4 of an inch by 4 inches, and that's going to go to the right of our fold line on our 4 1/4 by 4 3/4 inch paper. And so I ended up putting a magnet under one of these decorative papers. So do that instead of putting the magnet here. Here's the corresponding magnet. And this is going to be adhered I want this to be centered on the page. So I'm going to add some adhesive to here. And I'm turning this and centering it on the page. I'll put that down and make sure it's adhered. And then I'll take my magnet, I'll add a drop of glue so I know where it goes. These are the magnets without the adhesive. Next time I will get the ones with the adhesive, but I'll put that down, then add my paper, and then I'll add a photo mat, and then we're done. And so here's the page completed. So we have a flap with the 4x4 cut apart. And then we've got a photo mat here, and you also could put a picture there. I decided to use green just because all that orange was taking over. So I've got green there, and of course it's held together with a magnet. So that is the front of page 2. All right, we're going to make this page. So basically what you'll need is 2 pieces that are 4 by 4 3/4. And with the 4 3/4 side at the top, scored 1/2 inch. And then we're going to fold and burnish on that score line. And then one of these is going to be adhered to the page on the right side, one on the left. Before we adhere it, so I'm going to make a tab for this. So I'm just using a tab punch that I have. All right, there's the tab. You could put it in your scoreboard if you want, but basically you can just fold it in half as well. And then adhere it in the center, and I just go up to that so I just have the little tab part showing. I can burnish that a little more. And then to add the pattern paper, let me grab a scrap of paper. I'll use this. So I'm going to cut another tab. And then I'm going to take this and insert it into my tab punch. And I'm going to use an eraser because that seems to grab it real well. And I'm going to cut it again, but just on one side. So I'm not going to go all the way as far as the cutting on this side. It's going to cut on that side. So it'll cut it shorter than the original tab. So it'll cut it that much shorter. And then grab my scissors. I'll cut that in half and adhere one side. The front side I'll adhere now. This is not the paper I'm going to use, but that way you see it still has a border of our base color cardstock on it. And then you're going to add the next piece on top of that. Of course it'll be bigger, and that'll cover up the edge of it, and that's a real nice secure tab. So since this is a book for a baby, I sort of have a feeling the baby might play with it. And then I'm going to grab a magnet. I don't have a magnet right now, but we'll add a magnet to here, cover that, cover the magnet, and then add the corresponding magnet underneath our paper. And I've already got our little tabs. We will add this for the top ones. Oopsie. This for the bottom one on the outside. And then I'll cover this and this with some patterned paper, and I'll put a photo mat down here so the recipient knows where the photo is going to go. Alright, so I've cut down some 4x4 cut aparts. This one I cut down. It needs to be cut down to about 3 7/8 by 3 1/4. And same with the inside. And then on this part of it, I am going to put photo mat so they know, the recipient knows where to put the pictures. And so this is 3 3/4 by 4. Let me make sure. Yep. I want to make sure it gets hidden when you close it. You don't see the photos. I just like those kind of surprises. So we'll put one under each one, and it doesn't get in the way of the magnet. There's about 1/8 of an inch border all around this, so you see some of the paper. There we go. And then these are 3.5 by 3 3/4. And that just adds a nice photo mat. And what I like about this page, or this paper collection actually, is that you can make it as birthday as you want. You notice on this page, it's got the green dots and the green and white paper, and that's really neat. I could have used the green and white paper on here. That's the other side of this. I decided to keep it with the birthday theme. But there we go. So that is the back of page 2. Woohoo! All right, the next thing we're going to do is add just a little flap. So I have a piece that's 6 by 8.5 with the 6-inch side at the top. You know, let's score it 3/4 of an inch. And then rotate it. And now the 8.5 side is at the top. Score at 4 1/4. And then I'm going to just grab my scissors. If you want, you can use your scoreboard. And so we've got basically 4 rectangles, 2 big ones and 2 small long ones. I'm going to cut on the right hand side at a diagonal up to that intersection of the 4. And then I'm going to cut along the score line this piece. And I always like to use long bladed scissors. All right, let us take our bone folder and burnish. And burnish on this little line. And I'm going to grab my book. And so what this is going to be is a little flap really in between the back of page 2 and the front of page 3, just to add a little extra. You can add an extra picture or 2 here. You actually could add 4. You could add front and back of all sides. So I'm just going to grab my adhesive. And I wanted to make this flap a little bit longer. That's why I said cut it or score at 3/4 of an inch. It just, I don't want it to be choppy in its movement. I don't know. It just helps to adhere it down. So I'm going to go, I'll go about 1 1/4 inches from the top here. I don't want to be right in the center because we've got these 2 smaller pieces. So I sort of want to be cognizant of that as far as from a design perspective. If you had it right at the top, it would sort of be matchy-matchy here. Right in the middle, I don't know. So I put it up a little bit. Just, you could put it where you want. All right, so then let's decorate this before we move on to the front of page 3. So since this is now 5 1/4 by 4 1/4, we can cut some paper at 5 1/8 by 4 1/8. So we'll cut 4 papers. You could possibly add one of the cut aparts. So this cut apart, no, that's too small. I don't know, let me look around the papers and see what we have. All right, so we have this little cut apart. I cut it down so it'll fit exactly on there. That makes me really happy. You could use what you want, and actually you could use this as a spot for a photo as well. But I just like the colors on this page blending with the colors on that. And then in the inside, I've got this green, and then I've got the white, and then I'm going to add green here because that way when you have the page open, it sort of matches with that. But you could do that if you wanted to. You could do whatever you want. And I don't have a magnet to keep this onto the page, but I do have a magnet That looks short. I don't know that I like it that short. I do have a magnet to keep it closed here. So on the white photo mat and on the green. I'm going to cut this a little bit bigger and then we'll move on. Okay, 3F. You'll need 2 pieces of cardstock that are 5 3/4 by 8. I'm going to grab the scoreboard and we're simply going to score each one with the 5 3/4 inch side at the top at 1/2 inch. And then we're going to adhere one to the right side and one to the left side. So that's pretty easy. My feeling on this page was I had 2 matching photos that are 4 by 6 and they're portrait. And then I've got a 4 by 4 photo and they're sort of, they're a grouping. They're the baby and the mom, and they're really very touching photos. And again, I didn't want the photos to be right at you as you open the page. I just thought they were, I don't know, just too touching. There was a lot of emotion in those photos, and I sort of felt like they needed to be on a page by themselves, sort of hidden away. I mean, you're going to see them, but you know what I mean? They just were full of emotion. You know, when you're doing albums for people you know, you feel that emotion. In this case, they're people I really don't know, but after doing a mini album for them, I feel like I know them. You know, you sort of, photos are a glance into their soul. So I'm going to put 2 photos here that are corresponding and 1 photo in the center. This it's the 4 by 4 in the center. I will double, triple, quadruple mat to place some importance. And then I will put a cut apart here. Since there's enough focus between these 3 pieces, I don't want another focal point to show, so I will sort of hide it below this one, and you don't see it until you've moved on from this page and you're on to this page. Make sense? All right, let me cover these and I'll show you what I've done for the focal point here. All right, let's glue down the pieces. So this is cut 5 1/8 by 7 7/8. And I'm going to put that down on the front flap, the flap that is adhered on the left-hand side. No, this isn't the front flap. This will be the back flap. So that will go here. I didn't mind having a little bit of busyness because the pages inside were going to be not quite as busy. All right, now we'll open it up. And I've got plain pink inside. The pictures that I actually have are black and white. Now, if you have something that has more color, then you can use one of the patterns. But, you know, this is why I get the solids that coordinate. I just think it looks so pretty sometimes. And then when you put an element here, you know, later on when I decorate, I'll probably put a sticker there. It's a good backdrop for whatever you put. So again, 5 1/8 by 7 7/8. That gives you 1/8 of an inch all around. And then here I have this pattern paper. It's the balloons, and this is cut 5 7/8 by 7 7/8. You could use the balloon paper, but I again like the more muted look here, just because of the photos. If this was a photo of the party and there was stuff going on, I might use that balloon paper, but it wasn't. All right, and then for the photo mats, I'm using 4.5 by 6.5. I wanted a larger photo mat than normal. You could use 4.25 by 6.25. You know, this is where I could use my spacers from Country Craft Creations to make sure my photo mats are lined up. I'm adding just a little bit more room on the bottom of the page than the top of the page. The reason is that'll give you room to journal, and I always find that's, to me, more interesting. If you ever notice, sometimes museums will have a larger area on the bottom, especially for photographs. Not so much paintings, but photographs. And then on this page, this is going to be a 4x4 photo, so I've cut this 5.5 by 4.5. That way it sort of looks a little like a Polaroid. And there's room to journal on the bottom of this page, bottom of the photo, the white area. Now this one I am going to center not center on the page, but center between these two. So we have that, we have that. I put this birthday girl cut apart on there. When you open the page, it's going to look like this. That's okay that this is flopping. It's a freestanding photo mat. So we open, we got that, room to put a photo or another cut apart. Then we open like that, and there we go. And again, we'll add some stickers once we go. I know it looks sort of plain right now, but for the photos I'm going to put here, that is perfectly fine. Okay, that is the front of page 3. Now we move to 3B. I have not done a pocket page, so that's what we're going to do for the back of page 3. 2.25 by 7. Score with the 7-inch side at the top at 1/2 inch. The 2.25 inch side at the top at 1/2 inch. And the 7. I said 7. You know what? I said 7, but I cut it down a little bit less just so the pocket won't go over. Is that going to fit? That'll be okay. 7's better. I'll grab my scissors, and where the lines intersect, go ahead and trim at that X. Just cut right across the X, and I'll cut that down. Grab my bone folder, burnish on my score lines. And this is where you could take the page that has the candles on it and cut the candles. Because that wasn't the one I was going to use. I loved the lines on this, so I'm going to use that. But I am going to trim that down a smidgen. Oops, that's not what I want. I want my glue. So I will just adhere this to that. And I'm going to put this down towards the bottom. And then I'm going to grab well, I'm gonna add a piece of blue to this, that darker teal, because this page is going to be the darker teal. So I will add that once I work on that page. All right, what I'm going to do is just add adhesive to the very bottom. And put that on at the bottom. Open that up and burnish all that glue. Whoops. And then I'm going to add a piece of tape. I cut down a piece of packing tape because I don't have any Scotch tape at this moment. I'm going to put that on the bottom. And the reason I do that is if for any reason, if I don't put a piece of paper that goes all the way down, anything you put into here is not going to get stuck. You know, sometimes it just feels like it doesn't go any further because it gets stuck on the on your tab. Well, if we put that in there, then I don't have to worry about it. All right. So I am going to put the background. I'm going to cut this. And I'll put that in there. So I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Quick page. So I've got the little stripes at the bottom, which are the candles. And then just a strip of this paper, because again, I'm going to put it on this page. And if you add more things to the pockets, then you're not going to see that much of the background, but it'll peek through. I'm not going to add more things. I'm not going to add these to the pockets, but I might have more. So there is that happy birthday. Geez, you could make that into a card really easy. And then the back just has some paper. So that is that. All right, let us move on to the front of page 4. In this page, 4F, 2 pages ago I did pictures of the mom and baby. Now I'm going to do pictures of the dad and baby. It's going to be simple, but instead of whole page flaps, they're just going to be flaps for the picture. So I've cut 2 pieces of cardstock, 5 by 6.5. And with the 5-inch side at the top, we'll go ahead and score at 1/2 inch. And we're simply going to adhere them onto one on the left, one on the right. And you can center them if you want, but I'm going to have one go up at the top and one down at the bottom. And I'll show you what I mean. We will add our adhesive. And this one is going to go up to the top on the left-hand side, right at the top. And I'll burnish. And this one is going to go down at the bottom on the right-hand side. Now, you could center them both, one on the right, one on the left, but I like to do it this way just to add a little bit of interest. And this is where if you had a 5x7 photo, this would be perfect on this page. I don't have 5x7 photos, so I am just going to add several mats and just add a little interest. So it's the same as the mom page, but instead of full pages, it's just going to be, whoops, you get it there. It's just going to be photo mats. So I'll go ahead and add some paper and then show you what I do. And I'm going to add a magnet. Oh, do I want it in the center or do I want or we could add a 4x6 cut apart, or even a 4x4, or even a 3x4. So let me figure out the design on that and I'll get back to you. Okay, so the page is completed and I'll show you what we have. This is a cut apart. It's perfect for this. It's got the same colors as we have over here. It's got that darker teal. It's got a pink, and I could have put pink over here, but I just stuck with the candles to have the pages go together well. So this cut apart, I cut down a little, and it's on top of a 4¼ by 6¼ photo mat that is in that dark teal. And then you open it up. The magnets are up here, by the way. So you open it up and there's 2 photo mats. These are 4¼ by 6¼ so your 4x6 photo will fit perfectly. And then, is that right? Or did I make it to pull that off? Yeah, that was right. And then we've got a photo mat. And I put this cut apart on here. I just tacked it on, but that can come off. But there is the front of page 4. And now we're moving on. All right, the back of page 4. We'll need 2 pieces of cardstock. One is 6½ by 9, and the other is 4½ by 7. What I have on this is 2 photos that go together. So I'm going to have them facing each other, and then one that sort of goes with it, but not exactly. So anyhow, at the 9-inch side at the top, let's go ahead and score at 4½. And this one with the 7-inch side at the top, score at 1/2 inch. This piece is going to be glued down onto our pattern paper. And this will become a folder that will be glued down onto here. Excuse me. So this will open up like this, and then it'll go up like that. So let's glue this onto the paper. And I want to make sure it's all going to fit. I'm going to grab scissors and miter the corners of the 4½ by 7. And I will add glue. I'm going to glue it on the part of the tab facing up. And then I'll put this in here. Put the tab down. Make sure it's all lined up. And burnish. And then I'll add my pattern paper onto the page. Of course, you could use the candle side if you wanted to, facing up. And this is cut 5 7/8 by 7 7/8. So there's an 8-inch side all around. And I'm going to center this on here, glue this piece down. So again, we'll have that open like that, and then that'll come up, and room for photos here. Before I go any further, I'm going to erase my rating here. Just so it doesn't show. And I'll probably be adding a magnet on the underside of here and here, so that'll all stick. So let me go ahead and get that done and then show you the finished product. Okay, I'm going to show you this page now that it's done. So I added a little flap. It's just a very small one to put small pictures on. It measures 3.5 by 3, so it was 3 by 7, and then I folded it and just adhered it to the top. And then this will open this way, and then it opens that way. So that is that page. Now we're going to make this one. Okay, we are at the front of page 5. Ta-da! We're going to have a belly band. So I have a piece of cardstock that is 9 inches by 2. How did I come up with that? I had a piece that was 1 3/4 that corresponds. That is the only piece that needs scoring. So with the 9-inch side at the top, we'll score at at 1/2 inch and 8.5. Simple enough. We'll fold and burnish on those score lines. And then I've cut a piece of pattern paper that's going to go on the page. And what I like to do is to secure the belly band onto the page, the pattern paper. It would help if I had my adhesive. Before I glue that down, I just make sure that that's straight, just by eyeballing it. And then I'll go ahead and glue this down. I mean, you could do it either way. You could glue the belly band and slip the pattern paper in. Either way. Okay, and then I will take my pattern paper. Yes, I guess I could have done it that way too. That would be nice and bright and colorful. That would be fun. Either way would work. So I'm adhering that. And that is 1 3/4 by 7 7/8. And then I have here, this is a 2 by 2 cut apart. And that's going to go on a 2 1/4 by 2 1/4 piece of white cardstock. And that's going to go on a 2 1/2 by 2 1/2 gray cardstock. And that's going to go right there. Okay, so what I ended up doing is I had a piece of the candles. It is landscape, not portrait, but that's okay, because when you put it in here, the colors all are nice. And I like the two pages together. I think that looks fabulous. So we are done with that. Dun, da, da, da. Working on the back of page 5. All right, 5B is going to have a side loading pocket, and we're going to have a folder with room for 6 photos. Let's start with the side loading pocket. So my paper is 4 by 9. I'm going to score at 1/2 inch with the 4-inch side at the top, and then rotate and put the 9-inch side at the top. Score at 1/2 and 8.5. 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. You don't have to do anything with. The 6 1/4 by 9. We're going to score at 4 1/4. At 8.5. And the 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, we're going to just put the 3.5. Let's try that again. 3 3/4 by 4.5. I'm going to score at 1/2 inch with the 4.5 inch side at the top. This is, it's a weird size because there's a weird size cut apart. And I'll show you that cut apart. It's this one. So we're going to use that right there. So, all right, let's take the 6 1/4 by 9. And all we're going to do on that one, we'll fold and burnish on the score line. And I'll add glue to that tab. If you were going to do a 4 by 6 without room for a border around it, then you would just need a 12-inch piece and score at 4 and 8. But I like a border around it, so score it at, so we have 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 inch pages. I'm going to fold here and there, and then I might leave it plain, or I might just put in some white paper, but I'm done with that for now. The 4 by 9, I'll need my scissors, and I need to miter on the corners, and where we've got the X created by the 2 score lines, we just cut right through the center of that. And I'll fold and burnish on those score lines. And we're going to add glue to the long tab. And that's going to go on the right-hand side. Oops, everything's coming with me. On the right-hand side of 5B. So put it on the page, not on the hinge. Make sure the bottom of the page, the bottom of the pocket and the top are lined up. And then I'm going to grab my tape and just cover that, just again, so something will go in the pocket without getting hung up. And then I can glue the sides. And then this, I'm going to fold and burnish on the score line. And that's going to go on the left-hand side of the page. And that will just ensure that the folder that we're going to put in the pocket is going to stay secure and not go anywhere. And I'll go ahead and add a magnet here just so it doesn't go anywhere. So let me decorate that and show you what we got. All right, so this is the finished page. So we've got a flap to open it. Then we've got the insert, which has 6 pages. Now I used the 4 by 6 cut aparts so you can put those on the page, but I mean, really, you're just going to put photos. Now, there is a magnet here, and luckily it's a strong magnet, so this will still stay closed. But I've got the cake paper here, and then the other side of the cake paper goes in about an inch beyond what you can see. So that can go in like that, and then it stays. If you keep it like that, then you don't see the writing below, and it is a nice presentation. But room for 6 photos. If you wanted to, you could put another photo on here, but I like the Let's Party. All right, moving on to the inside back cover. All right, the inside back cover is going to be a pocket with a flap, as I usually do. I like to do that on the inside back cover because that's where you can put everything else that maybe you developed 100 photos and only 99 went in the book. That's where you're going to put the extra one. Honestly, I don't know how many photos go. I haven't counted. But we're going to have a pocket with a gusset and a flap with a gusset, so you have a lot of room to put things in. So the pocket is going to measure 3.5 by 8. I guess that's right. And the flap is 6.5 by 8. So the 3.5 by 8 will put the 8-inch side at the top. I'm going to score at 1/2 inch, at 1/4. I'm going to rotate. Wait, am I going to rotate? I'm going to rotate and do 1/2 inch and 1/4. And then we're going to put the 3.5 inch side at the top and score at 1/2 inch and 1/4. And then the 6.5 by 8, put the 8-inch side at the top and score at 1/2 inch and 1/4. And then as I like to round the bottom of my flap that's going to go over the pocket. So I'm going to round the corners here. And I'll fold and burnish on these score lines. And I am going to miter this corner. So the 1/2 inch, you don't have to go below that 1/2 inch. And I will go ahead and adhere that. So I'm going to add my adhesive and put that 1/2 inch flap down. Make sure it doesn't go beyond the gusset. And we're good with that. And then here, we're going to just miter up to the 1/2 inch score line and from the 1/2 inch score line out. And here, I'm going to just go to the very innermost score line, a slight miter on both sides. So that's what comes out. And same on this side. Just a slight miter, so that way the pocket on the bottom closes nicely. And I will fold and burnish on all these score lines. And then I'm going to put glue in on this bottom flap. And I'm going to line that up. Again, we're going to stay away from the gusset here because I want the page to open. I'm going to grab some adhesive. It was a little bit too big. try that again. And then I will add glue to these tabs. And again, make sure that we're nice and straight on this tab because you don't want it going over the fold of the back page. Okay. All right, we're good with that. Make sure the book closes, which it does. And let's decorate. All right, I've got the papers cut to put on the back flap and pocket, but I want to make a closure for this, and I'm going to make, you could either call it a library style closure or circle closure, either one. I've already marked the halfway point, so on this bottom piece it was a little more than 3 inches. I'm using my We Are Memory Keepers corner punch, not corner punch, We Are Memory Keepers chomper, and I'll add a hole here on the decorative paper, and then I've also marked it here. That cake intrigues me. So I've got holes there. Now I've got a piece of scrap paper, and I have I think it's 3/4 of an inch circle punch. I'm going to cut out 4 circles. I will glue 2 together, so I'll have 2 sets of 2. Sort of generous with the glue on this because the glue also makes it stronger. So I'll put that on there. And there we go. And then I need one more. I'm looking through my scraps. I actually am looking for something that is pink, but that's okay. I'll use orange. So I will cut 2 circles in orange. And then I'll glue these on. And again, I'm being somewhat generous with that glue. Now, if you ever have the white core of the paper showing through, you might want to ink around the edges. There's a little, but it's not terrible on here, so I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so we have 2 circles that are actually 3 different thicknesses. Oops, now I'll take my small cutter, small hole punch, the 1/8 inch, and do my best to try to find the center. I probably hardly ever get it in the center. Actually, those don't look too bad. And then I've got 2 brads. They're nice bright pink brads. I'm going to put one here on the bottom. And I just push it down with my bone folder. Now the other one, before I put my brad in, I'm going to add my string. So I'll put it through. I'm going to unravel some of this and then add some tape just to hold that down. And then I'll take my other circle and the brad, I'll move that string to the side and put it through. That way that string always stays attached and doesn't go anywhere. And now I can glue this onto the page, and I will be really rather generous with the glue where the string is and where my brad is. So I'll put this on the top piece. And then the bottom one. Make sure when you put it on, why does that always happen? It always seems like it's a little wonky, even though I measure. Oh, that's not bad. Okay. So again, I'll be generous with the glue around the brad. Helps keep it in place. Okay, and then to close it, of course, all you're going to do is you could do the figure 8. Or you could just wrap it around. But I need to put the paper inside before I close that for good. So I'll do that and then show you what I've got. Alright, so what we have is our circle closure. And then that opens up, and I've got the pattern orange here, the pattern orange on the little gusset, and then the orange. And there is 1/4 of an inch of space to allow you to put lots of things inside there. When all's said and done, I'll probably make a couple of tags, maybe a booklet or two to put in there, so so the recipient gets the idea of what this big pocket is for. And now I get to do the front cover and the back cover and the spine. So I'm going to work on the back cover next. Alright, so for the back cover, I just put this pattern paper on here. Didn't put a mat or anything. It's adorable paper. I like my back covers to be flat. I might put something here, but probably not. So now we're going to work on the front cover. The book is 8.5 by 6.5. So I cut a piece of white cardstock, 8 3/8 by 6 3/8, and I'm going to use that as my base. I'm going to add this orange star paper, and this piece measures 6 1/4 by 6 13/16, but this can be longer because we are going to glue it. We're going to shorten it, actually. I'll show you what I mean. I try on the covers to make sure I get real close to the edge because it's probably a part of the book that gets touched most. So now I'm going to make sure this is on even. And then I have this striped paper. This is 2 7/8 by, same as this one. What was that? 6 1/8. And I'm going to put this on top of the orange star paper. And then I'm going to take, I have a piece of white cardstock that I am going to just put on the bottom of my stripe piece. And I'll just cut it off where it's coming off the paper. All right. Now I have a pink square that's 4.5 by 4.5. And this is going to go down on my cover. So I'm going to center it from the top and the sides. So the center is right about where that white piece is. All right, now I'm going to put that aside while I work on some of this. So this is from the ephemera pack. It's the die cut cardstock pieces, and this was one of the pieces, and this was one of the cut aparts. I'm going to use this as the start of a shaker. So I've already cut a piece of chipboard. So this is 3.5, no, it's 3 by 3. So I cut this 2 15/16 by 2 15/16. So it's just a smidgen smaller than the shape. But I want to cut out the center, and I'm going to just use my straight edge and do it that way. So I drew already the outline of my hole, and I'm just going to cut this just a little bit bigger than that. And again, it's better to go over and cut it several times than try to cut deep once and miss. So I'll cut all 4 sides of this. And this is going to add some depth to my shaker. I like using ready-made frames for a shaker element, but you don't need to. You could just use a square or circle or something popped up. I mean, you can buy the shakers. Country Craft Creations has some whole page shakers. Whoops. Just check in there on their website. Just put in shakers and you'll get lots of shaker elements as well as the acetate shaker pieces. Okay, I got that. I'll check in the back, see if I missed anywhere, and cut it through. So there we go. It looks a little wonky, but it'll work. It's going to be perfect for this. But because I've got it cut so close to this shape, and do I need to round the corners? I don't really, but I'm going to take some Distress Oxide and I'm going to ink around it just so if you see any, it's going to match with my paper. This Distress Oxide is the Lost Shadow that just came out, and this is a great match to go with the Winter Gray. Alright, I put some score tape on my chipboard frame, and I cut out a piece of acetate. The acetate is 2.5 by 2.5. And I am going to center it on here. And it actually will give me some room on the outside to adhere this frame. So I'm going to glue this on. don't see the chipboard. All right. All right, so this is one layer, and then this is going to be another layer. You're not going to see this part because we're going to cut it out. What we're going to do is put that on top of here. And I'm going to glue this down onto the chipboard so the chipboard is just a smidgen less, although I could have cut them the same size and that would be fine. And then I'm going to use this, which is the center of that, as a spacer. Actually, what I'm going to do is add a little bit of ATG. Now I could glue this on if I wanted to. Okay. And I will use this as a pattern to cut the next layer. Right, so now this is going to go on top of there, so that's going to give me two thicknesses for the shaker. I might want it a little thicker, so I think what I'm going to do is cut another piece of chipboard about the same dimension, and alright, to build it up I just took the easy way out and cut some extra pieces of chipboard. I could use foam tape, but I don't always trust it to stay on, and then you have to glue it. And I'm thinking, all right, if you're gonna have to glue it, might as well use chipboard. Now I did ink around the edges of the chipboard. So yeah, there is like a shelf there, but it'll be okay. All right. So what's going to happen is this is going to go down. I'm going to put in all of my shaker elements, and then this is going to go on top of it. So there are 3 layers. So let me adhere this. And then this is going to go down in the center. If you wanted to, you could put a picture here. And then, so the original embellishment kit had blue and purples and pinks and yellows. I took out all the blue and added a little bit of green. I wanted the colors to match what we have. I'm going to put that in here. Get it in there nice and solid. And then that'll go on top of it. Oops, I'll make sure there's enough room. See if I have to take any out. Yeah, I probably should take some out. All right, get that all in. Let's see, if I shake this, we'll be able to read it. Nope. All right, all set. There we go. Perfect. So now I'm going to let this dry for a second and then put this on here and then add a couple more decorations and put something on the spine, and we're almost done. And that's it. That is how to make this mini album using a birthday wish girl collection from Echo Park Paper Company. Everything to make this is available at Country Craft Creations. I will list their website below. Go check them out. Hurry up, because this is a great collection to use, and of course you could switch it up and get the boy collection and it would work just as well. So that is what I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to hit the like button, and thank you so much for watching. Have a fabulous day.